Please silence your cell phones if you haven't already. Craig is with us today. And I'm especially interested in this one today. He's going to tell us the only ingredient we need for a happy life. I want to see if I'm on the right track. So he'll. Yeah. Lisa Knowles is also with us today. Welcome, Lisa. This is Lisa's first time, and she's a well-known, exceptional vocal talent. She, as well as she's a voice coach. Welcome, Lisa. The board of directors is inviting everyone to a community meeting on February 2nd. We have a commitment to thrive on this campus, and we need the community to not only be informed, but also affirm that we will be here for the next 10 years and beyond. We have an offer pending to develop a preschool on the property, which will require to sign a 10-year contract. We need all of you to be informed of the factors that need to be considered in making this commitment. There will be plenty of time allotted for questions and discussion after the meeting or during the meeting. Then we'll have to vote of the membership confirming our intention to commit to the 10 years and beyond on this property after reviewing all of the relevant factors. If you can, please plan on joining that meeting on February 2nd. Finally, you can sign up today outside for the next round of spirit groups that begin this week. If you haven't already done a spirit group, please do. They're really cool. Now, please stand for the congregational song.
Well, good morning. My name is Jean-Claude Pinto, and I'm part of a prayer chaplain team, and I get the honor of opening the service by first lighting the Christ candle. And why do we light the Christ candle? It's to remind ourselves that Christ consciousness resides in every one of us, and we come here in shared unity, and that is the spark that lights it for us. Our daily word today is really powerful. It's just what we experienced just prior to coming and watching Dr. Martin Luther King give that talk at Washington Mall. The daily word today is inspired. And their scripture text is Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. That's Genesis 2:7. The affirmation today: my words and actions inspire others. The reading: today I reflect on a clear vision, powerful words, and courageous actions of leaders such as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I appreciate how one person's example can inspire so many others to move beyond thoughts of limitation and focus on the possibilities for good that are always present. Inspiration can be thought of as the breath of God. I, like all people, am made in the image and likeness of the divine. I give thanks for people I have known whose vibrant faith and love, even in the most challenging circumstances, have inspired me. Guided by my divine gifts of imagination and zeal, I join with those building a world where each person lives freely and with joy. So I'll say the affirmation, and the second time you'll join me. My words and actions inspire others. Together, my words and actions inspire others.
I once heard a powerful story about a man who stood in his truth. Such conviction in who he was, he would not be moved. Someone stepped out of a crowd and said, "Are you Martin Luther King?" He said, "Yes, I am." And the well-dressed man spit on him. Then King took out his handkerchief and wiped the hate from his suit. He gave it back to the man and said, "I believe this belongs to you. I will lift you up and do what I can do. I see your heart and I know your pain. I have been there too. I will hold you high while you do what you have to do. But I am clear who is standing here. I believe this belongs to you." I once had a powerful story I used to carry around. I thought it was you all this time that held my spirit down. But now I know the truth of who I came here to be. You are my angel in disguise, not my enemy. So I thank you for the part you played in this dance that we had to do. I give you back your own true love. I believe this belongs to you. I will lift you high and do what I can do. I feel your heart and I know your pain. I have been there too. I will hold you high while you do what you have to do. I give you back your own true love. I believe it belongs to you. I will lift you up and do what I can do. I feel your heart and I know your pain. I have been there too. I will hold you high while you do what you have to do. I give you back your own true love. I believe it belongs to you. I am clear as we're standing here. I believe this belongs to you.
Voice of prayer right there. As we close our eyes to pray, I invite everyone, put your hands together. At the back of your hands, touch your heart in a pranam to God, bowing to God, or you can put your right hand over your chest to touch your heart. But always when we pray, it's good to touch the heart and get in a connection with the divine heart, where God resides, where you reside. And as we come to pray today, we can easily feel the presence of Dr. King here with us. One of the great ones who taught through the power of love. And of course, let's not mistake that love, capital L, is God. It is you. When Dr. King related to those who hated him, who despised him, who stood up to him, he only brought love. He understood that only through the power of love can true change come. Only love. This is why he did not embrace a violent movement, and we are all the better for it. In our prayer, let's bring that love first to ourselves today. It's likely that many of your hearts are sorely in need of love, to feel that divine presence in your own heart, where everything can be made right. And then, when we cultivate that love, as Dr. King had done, this is why he was such an an example that lives to this day. Then we can bring this love into a world in need. First to our families, our friends, all of those that we meet along the way. I think we'd all agree the world is starving for divine love right now. The reason there's a longing for divine love is because people are cut off from that love in their own hearts. This morning, take a breath through your chest. Take a breath and feel the breath as love in your heart. As you breathe in, let your interior gaze begin to rise, toward heaven. But just gently getting a feeling of looking out gently through your forehead, through the point between your eyebrows. Notice how restful this is. No tension. As you breathe out, let that love flow from you to everybody in the sanctuary. The flow of love is always happening. All we have to do is remember. And this morning, as you breathe into the heart, get a sense of your own being kneeling in your heart, kneeling down to the divine who is your very life, without whom you could not even know that you exist. Kneel to that presence that's here this morning. Get a sense of your forehead touching down on the earth, bowing to the divine with humility. And as you bow, bring the prayer of your heart this morning. For a few moments, you know far better than I what you need right now. God is here. God is within you. Let the prayer of your heart rise to God for a few moments. In that openness of prayer, listen to these words from Tara Bianca. Everything that exists is the surrender of God to you. Everything that exists is the divine, loving its creation. God is unconditional love. Christ's consciousness is unconditional love. God allows everything, witnesses it, and still loves us. Even when you think you are lost, broken, or alone, God is there with you, loving you, beckoning you to return to love. However, God does not force you to love God. The divine patiently, beautifully, and humbly sits at your feet, asking you, "May I love you?"
I pray you'll be our eyes and watch us when we go, and help us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer as we go our way. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe. I pray we'll find your light and hold it in our hearts when stars go out each night. Remind us where we are. Let this be our prayer when shadows fill our days. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe.
Feel that. As we come to meditation this morning, for many of you, meditation is already happening. Through the music, through the prayer, we have been brought into this space of now, right here, where God is. We don't have to look any further. This morning we're finders. The divine is here in your heart. As we come to meditation, let's listen to these words from the great saint from India, Anandamayi Ma, who was an embodiment of the Divine Mother. She said, "At every breath, be in communion with Him through His name." One of God's names is love. He Himself resides within all, at every moment, everywhere. If the breath and the mind become one-pointed and steady, then the mind will expand into infinity. Every breath is a gift from God. Are you master of even one breath? As we take a breath together, feel the breath this morning as God. And as you breathe, get a sense of the breath flowing through the point between your eyebrows, through your forehead, sweeping the mind of all that is heavy, all the burdens, all that you think separates you from God. Let the in-breath sweep it, and then let the out-breath carry it out through your forehead. Let it go. And as you breathe and continue to breathe, let your awareness rest in the breath as if you're resting in God. Breathing in, you breathe in God. Breathing out, you breathe out into God and for God. When your awareness drifts into the mind, into thinking, the stream of thought that always seems to be so important, this morning, notice, with the breath of God, you can lay it down. You can lay down your effort. You can lay down your struggle. For those of you that think you have a hard time meditating, just for a moment, just pretend that I've said the meditation's now over. Let go. No effort, no struggle, no resistance. And simply rest on the in-breath as God. Notice that it flows in. And notice as you follow the in-breath to its peak, there's a little pause, a little gap, a little space before you breathe out. It's there naturally. That space is also God. And as you breathe out, the out-breath is God. And at the end of the out-breath, there might be a longer space before you need to breathe again. And that space is God. Everything is God. Everything is God. Everything is God. As you come to your next breath and you breathe it in, feel that it's taking you deeper into God. Breathing in God. As you breathe out, a deeper letting go into God. All is He. Everything is God. As we continue to breathe the breath as God, bring this question to the silence around your thoughts this morning. What's the one ingredient that seems to be lacking in my life right now? What's the one ingredient that if I had it, I would actually know joy, peace, and fulfillment? Look deeply. Perhaps for some of you, there's nothing but fulfillment right now, and that's beautiful. But for those that feel there's something missing overall, what would that one ingredient be? Bring it to one word. As you bring it to one word, repeat that word on the in-breath. Repeat that word on the out-breath, feeling that not only the breath now is God, but this word that you have discovered, this ingredient that you most long for, is also God as you breathe in and repeat it. Breathe out and repeat it. It is God. Perhaps some of you feel as you do this, you already have that ingredient you long for, what you feel you're missing. It is here. It is present. as we come toward the end of the meditation, get a sense too that even though this formal part of meditation ends, it continues in you. That you can listen from a state of meditation. You can be present here in the sanctuary in meditation, even though some words will be spoken. These words aren't half as important as this silence. It is truly miraculous when we dive deep in meditation so often. We find exactly what we're looking for. Maybe some of you felt that this morning. And if you felt you had already found what you're looking for by the time you got here, you get more of it. Just by being still and opening to what is available here. Isn't this what we long for? In all of our doing, in all of our going, all of our seeking and accumulating, in one breath of God, we find exactly what we're looking for. Utter fulfillment now. Let's listen to these words from the great sage, Paramahansa Yogananda. And by the way, those of you that know of Yogananda, probably many of you began your spiritual search. One of the first books you may have read was by him called Autobiography of a Yogi. Very influential. Those of you who know about Lake Shrine up in the fire area, it was right in Malibu. You'll be happy to know it was quite miraculous. The Lake Shrine survived. A coincidence? No. And by the way, if you haven't been up there, I invite you to go. Some of Gandhi's ashes are there in a beautiful memorial. As Yogananda was friends with Gandhi, as he was friends with Anandamayi Ma, whose words I read earlier. Here's what Yoganandaji said. All those who sincerely seek him will surely find him. Those who want to love the Lord and yearn to enter his kingdom, and who sincerely wish in their hearts to know him, will find him. You must have an ever-increasing desire for him, day and night. He will acknowledge your love by fulfilling his promise to you throughout eternity. And you shall know joy and happiness unending. All is light. All is joy. All is peace. All is his love. He is all. Feel it. I could end the Dharma talk now by saying, that's the ingredient that we need. That's it. That one ingredient. You know, I love spiritual teachings where all of the great ones, no matter what path they came from, would agree on that spiritual teaching. And this one ingredient that I'm speaking about this morning, and many of you are resting in it as I speak, they all agree. Until we know God, until God is first in our hearts and we are absorbed in Him, there will be no peace. And until there is peace in the individual, there will not be peace in the world. It begins with each of us. The inspiration for this talk today came right after Christmas. As a gift, I was given a chef's hat. Imagine me with a chef's hat. I almost wore it today, but I thought it might be a little inappropriate. But I was encouraged to wear it by you-know-who, because she gave me the hat. Many of you know Fabian sitting right here. And I was delighted by this hat, right? Not because I'm a great chef, but because when I put it on, I say, oh, I feel like Superman with his cape, right? He puts the cape on, he's got the powers. Well, I put the chef's hat on, and it seemed to cook better than I've ever cooked. And believe me, all I cook is eggs. So the eggs taste like God. So after we had breakfast one day, we were doing the dishes, and we got into a really beautiful conversation. It started very lightly, exactly like today. She said, if you could monogram, maybe we need to monogram your name here. She said, what would you put there? And so we came up with some different names, and it was very funny. And I don't know if it was her or I who said, how about God's chef? I thought that was pretty good. So if I did monogram it, I would put God's chef. And it led to this beautiful dialogue. Maybe some of you have this experience when you're doing dishes or when you least expect it with a loved one, you're driving in the car. Suddenly you have one of the deepest philosophical and spiritual discussions you've ever had, and you didn't expect it. It wasn't here, it wasn't when you were listening to a book or tape. There it is. And that was one of these mornings. We talked about the challenges that are going on in the world right now, and the challenges that are going on in each of your individual lives, including mine. I think we would all agree, and I know I talk about this every month, but I also hear from all of you, you come to me and say, thank you for acknowledging that. This is not pie in the sky spirituality. This is Jesus on the cross spirituality that we're living in now, isn't it? I get very emotional talking about this because there's a lot of suffering going on in the world right now, isn't there? Maybe in your own lives, to one level or another. There's a lot to suffer over, it seems, isn't there? So we were having this beautiful conversation about what's happening and what we're all going through. And suddenly we came to this place where we realized that the only ingredient that really matters and that will fulfill us in our lives is God. That this presence of God overrides everything, is in everything, is in our own hearts. And when we are in touch with that divine spark, we are able to navigate these challenges and the confusion and all that we are going through with a lot more ease and a lot more grace. Isn't it true? But it's also true, isn't it, that we forget this. I see a lot of honest people here today. We forget this. Why do we forget this? Especially people who are on the spiritual path. And believe me, I forget as much as anybody. I notice that when I forget now, it's almost instantly a feeling inside of being out of balance. It's not extreme suffering anymore. That's what it used to be. That extreme suffering would bring me back to meditation, back to my practices, back to the teachings, and I would right myself again. Sometimes those periods of being away from the teachings would be quite long, and I would go through tremendous suffering. I've talked about that before. But for all of us now, we're feeling that unease. We're feeling adrift at times, and we forget the teachings. We forget our practices. We forget the very bedrock that we've been given by the teachers that we honor. And we just don't do them. Why is that? What is this thing in life that continues to pull us in and create suffering? What is it in creation that creates this forgetfulness of God? Isn't that what it is? Really? At its core? A forgetfulness of our divine nature. What is that? I'm going to tell a story today. And this story is a little long, so buckle up. But I will say this story is the highest spiritual teaching or spiritual story I ever heard. Many years ago, I heard it one time from my teacher at that time. I have never forgot it. It is still with me, and I'm sharing it with you this morning. I don't think I've ever told this story at Unity. It just wasn't the time. It feels like the time now. Maybe because it's too long. I don't know. Can you stay with me? Okay. So this comes from the Vedic yogic tradition, but it's very, very powerful. So once upon a time, long ago, millennia ago, God was in the divine realms and he was looking down on the play of humanity. And of course, the play of humanity at that time is exactly the play of humanity we see right now. No difference. So we can be there, can't we? Great things about these stories, I'll give you a clue. This is us I'm talking about. Okay. So God was looking at the play of humanity. And he was sitting with one of his greatest sages, whose name was Narayana. Some of you have heard his name in chants and so forth. Narayana means the one who dwells in us all. So God and Narayana were looking down at creation, and Narayana said to God, Lord, look at these humans. My gosh, look at them. You've given them everything. And look at the wars. Look at the killing. Look how they forget you. Lost in this world, this dream. Oh, Lord, sometimes I don't know how you're able to bear this. The Lord remained silent. Narayana watched a little bit longer and he said to God, you know, if you were to give me a human body, I would go to earth for you, just for you, Lord, and I would show these humans what it means to be a devotee of God, a lover of God. I would be such an example for humanity. God listened silently. Narayana could not contain himself. Yes, he said, God, please give me a body. I will go there and be your divine teacher, and I will bring these souls back to you in remembrance of you and what this life is all about. This time, the Lord said, Narayana, be careful what you wish for. Third time's a charm. Narayana said, Lord, I cannot take this anymore. These humans, they need the spiritual teacher. Give me a human body and I will go and I will proclaim your divinity everywhere and I will bring all souls back to you in remembrance of you. God said, okay, Narayana. He produced a golden chalice and he handed it to Narayana and he said, I will give you one moment in a human body. And while you are in the human body, as he handed him the golden chalice, he said, go and fetch me some water. Lightning bolt. In the next instant, Narayana came to. He was on all fours, bent over a lake, looking into a clear, placid lake. Guess what his first thought was? He thought, wow, I've got a human body. The Lord did it. And then he thought, and I am quite handsome. The Lord has given me such a form. This is amazing. Well, he sat up, and suddenly he heard music coming from down the beach. And there was a woman and several of her attendants following her, and musicians playing devotional music to God as they came down the lake. Narayana looked in the distance and he thought, ooh, this is interesting. Who is this? So he began to stand up. He put the golden chalice down in the sand. He stood up and he looked and he said, look at this. She got closer and closer, and the closer she got, the more attractive she became to Narayana. Well, Radha, who was coming, the woman that was coming, looked down the lake and said, who is that strange man? I've never seen him in these parts before, but he is very handsome. And so they came up to Narayana, and she said, who are you? He said his name, and he said, who are you? I am Radha. Don't you know who I am? He said, no, I'm new to these parts. She said, I am the daughter of a king. And what do you do? She asked. And he had to think quickly. He said, oh, I'm a philosopher and a lover of life. And she said, oh, my father would love you because he loves to talk endless philosophy with people like you. Why don't you come home with me? She just had a feeling. Well, Narayana agreed. And so off they went to the divine, big palace, and it was just beautiful. That night, Narayana had dinner with the royal family. Can you imagine? There he is. And as they had dinner, the king and Narayana engaged in the most high philosophical conversations. The king liked him so much, he said to Narayana, I usually don't do this, but how would you like to be one of my advisors? Narayana said, I would be honored, Your Majesty. And so he did. He became one of the king's most trusted advisors. And during the next year, wouldn't you know, he and Radha fell in love. Yes. After a year, they were married and everybody was happy. While the wedding was being prepared, the king even built them a house. He built the house right on the shore of the beautiful lake where they had met in honor of their love. After a year, they were married. They went on a honeymoon, and then they moved into the royal residence right down on the lake, and all was well. In the next 6 years, they had 3 children. And life was beautiful. They had never been so happy. One morning, in the midst of all this happiness, they were awoke by loud thunder and lightning. And as they rushed to the windows to look out at the lake, there was a torrential storm that had blown over the lake quickly. So quick, in fact, that the water began to rise, and it began to move very quickly into their home. They had very little time to think. They grabbed their children. They could not run inland because the water had already moved into the home and beyond. They rushed to a moor, and they got to a dock and got in a boat, thinking that maybe they would be safe that way. This was like no other storm. It was a hurricane. The lake rose and began to thrash about. Narayana was holding on to his wife. They were all holding on to their 3 children, and the water rose. And the boat was rocking, and the winds were blowing, and the rain, the torrential rain, they could barely see each other. And Narayana was holding on to one of his children who slipped away from his hands into the water. And he cried out, Radha cried out. And then finally the boat capsized. And as it capsized, Narayana lost hold of his beloved wife, Radha, who, along with the other 2 children, were taken under and away into the lake. This was the last thing that Narayana remembered. He blacked out, thinking he was going to die. The next morning, he woke up. He woke up at the edge of the lake, at the very spot he had started his journey. And as he realized, looking out into the calm, that his wife was now gone, his 3 children were now deceased, he looked in the distance. His house was completely wiped out. He had nothing left. His clothes were in tatters, and he began to feel a surge of anger toward God come up in him. And he began to cry out, Lord, how could you do this to me? How dare you? What have I done? And the anger began to build, and the grief began to build, and he began to pound the sand, and he began to pound his fate. And suddenly, in the middle of this rage, he felt a shadow over his body. And he looked up, and he saw the Lord. And Narayana looked up, and he said, God, why have you done this to me? The Lord reached out with a golden chalice, and he said, Narayana, where is my water? Do you understand? This is us, all of us. I thought this was timely too, because of the fires that just happened. God gave Narayana one thing to do in the one moment he was going to have a human body. Go fetch me some water. The moment he saw his reflection in the and became enamored of his form, he was lost, wasn't he? And off into the world he went, just like we all do. We come here, and our divine birthright is to be what we are, which is God itself. We are that, we are told. Jesus said, the kingdom is within you. Seek that first. Seek God first, and you will get the man. You will get whatever you need will come to you. All you have to do is remember God. And we are unable to do it. Narayana, a great sage even, I love that, completely lost immediately in merit, all of it. Nothing wrong with any of that, but he forgot the essence of why he had come to the earth, didn't he? To just get God a glass of water. Gone. And in that, there was great pain and suffering. And eventually, as we all know, everything was taken away from him. All of us go through those kinds of changes, don't we? Maybe not as dramatically where it all happens at once, although you can talk to thousands of people in LA right now who have lost everything all at once, including loved ones. They know what Narayana feels like. It is this forgetfulness that eventually brings us through our suffering to our knees and back to God, isn't it? It's likely that all of you have gone through hardships and lost so much, or else you would not be sitting here today. It could even be just a longing to fill this emptiness inside, which cannot be filled by the things of the world, because everything in the world is temporary. Every day when we wake up, God is standing at the foot of our bed. Where's my water? Will you remember me today? Will I be number one in your heart so that you can be the one that goes into the world as Narayana wanted to and remind people of what this life is really all about, which is the divine, which is remembering our divine birthright, which is who we are. This divinity and the expression of this divinity as we are. All the sages have said, until we wake up to who we are, there will be no peace, as I said earlier. We will continue wandering in the world, looking for something in the world that it cannot give us. And eventually, even if we get it, isn't it true? It will change. Any of you had that experience? You get the longed for relationship or whatever it is. It changes, doesn't it? Nothing on this earth is built to give us lasting peace. That's set into the game, into the matrix. There's a reason for that, because we're here to remember God. We're here to be Narayana, but remembering what we're here for, which is to get water for God, to remember who we are. How do we do this? How do we come out of this state of forgetfulness so that we can remember God always? You might make it a practice today. See how long you can go remembering God. Seeing God in every person that you meet, every bite of food that you eat, every step you take. How long can you do that? A minute? 5 minutes? It doesn't have to be perfect. Everyone you meet is God looking at you through those eyes. How we can remember, the sages have told us, is through our spiritual practices. These practices that we did today, they remind us, don't they? Wake up. This peace that you long for, this joy, this happiness, you already are. You don't even need to take a step to look. Turn within. In meditation, in deep prayer, you will find what is waiting in your heart. I don't know anybody in my life who is deeply spiritually realized that was able to find it any other way. I see many of you shaking your head. We deny this because we get caught in the world like Narayana did, right? The idea that there is something more important than God in life, that is the illusion. That is what binds us to suffering. When we break that bond and break that cord and begin to do our spiritual practices as if our hair is literally, I was going to say on fire, but maybe wet, given everything that's going on right now. But when we bring that commitment to our spiritual practices because all we want is God, we will have that. Instantly, it is said. God knows when we mean business. So through meditation, regular meditation, which you can do here on Sundays, you can come on Wednesdays and join us. The group on Wednesday is very powerful. Those of you that come know what I mean. It's a way to touch down in the company of others and move into that divine presence in our hearts. This requires the kind of humility that brings trust. This is what surrender is to God. It is being able to see that everything that comes to you now, everything that you go through in the world, everybody that you meet, every moment is designed for your awakening. It's not designed for anything else. It is God in another disguise saying, come home to me. Here I am. How are you acting right now? What do you want? Do you want more of the world? What's it given you so far? Me? Me? As we turn within through meditation, more and more we discover that inner joy, that inner peace of God's presence that is always available to us now. Take your golden chalice with you today. Fetch water for God in everything you do. This is called karma yoga. When you dedicate everything you do to God. What an easy path that is, right? This is for you, God, and you do your work. This is for you, God, and you do your meditation. This is for you, God, and you do your service here at Unity. Everything. Because here's the thing. Without God, none of us would even know we exist. We would not even have a life without that life force that moves us. Remembering that is the road, the royal road to peace, to joy, to contentment. Let's close our eyes as I finish these comments and move into this peace once again. Luckily, we don't have to look outside. But take a breath and let the breath be God again. And God is here. What if this was all you wanted as you leave here today? What if this was first in your heart always? What if this was the one ingredient that includes all the other ingredients? And let's listen to these words now again from Anandamayi Ma, the Divine Mother. God is the one great reality. To know and experience Him is the whole purpose of human existence. So do not hesitate to strive to achieve this great goal. Do not waste another moment. Be patient in all the ups and downs of life. Everything will right itself. Do all that is necessary to be done, but do not be anxious. Do your best and leave the rest to God.
Greg, whenever I listen to your talks, it's like an internal traveling to myself, which is such a blissful. And I think the words that you said, with God asking Ariana, "Where's my water?" said it all. So thank you. At this time, I want to welcome our guests, first-time guests. If this is your first time, we'd like to welcome you in person and online. We are so grateful that you have joined us today. Here at Unity of Tustin, we believe in one God, one heart, many paths, and our mission is to transform lives, inspire people to make a positive difference in the world. We are a fully inclusive community of all walks of life and would like you to know that wherever your background or wherever you are on your spiritual path, we are glad you're here to continue joining with us, your journey with us. Our ushers are coming forward with flowers and welcome cards for those who are here for the first or second time. So if you're comfortable doing so, we invite you to raise your hands so we can recognize you and present you with these gifts. So if our ushers would come forward, and anybody here for you for the first time, please raise your hands. We've got one, we've got two. Okay. We want to welcome you. We're glad that you're here with us today. We invite everyone to join us after the service for food and fellowship around a hospitality table, and make sure to stop by our open door bookshop and reading room and welcome center. Also, as always, we have our Reiki practitioners wearing green ribbons and our prayer chaplains wearing the white ribbons, who will be at the entrance of the meditation gardens ready to offer prayers and healing support. All prayers are confidential. We love to pray with you. In addition, there are prayer request forms in the seat backs in front of you and at the table at the garden's entrance where you may leave your prayer requests in the prayer box. They will be lovingly held in prayer by our silent prayer team ministry. There's always so much happening here in our campus of consciousness. Please make sure to check your email each Friday for our weekly newsletter and visit the welcome table for information about many upcoming events and ongoing classes and opportunities to serve as part of our beloved Unity of Tustin community. Now it's time for receiving our love offerings, and I invite our Reverend Craig to lead us into that.
So as we come to the offering, just get a sense of everything that you give, every action, word, thought, resource, giving it to God, as we talked about in the talk today. And we all know that as we give, we receive. I always say that we give and then we come here on Sunday or for a class and unity continues, doesn't it? We come, everything is happening. And the reason everything is happening continually is because of the resources and the donations and the service that you do. So when we give, it moves in a circle back to us so that we can give again. Just like God gives to us abundantly in every moment. Thank you. Oh, the love offering blessing. Here we go. Divine love, as we blesses and multiplies all that we are, all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Ooh, imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to nothing to kill or die for, and one religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of men. Imagine all the people but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as
Thank you, Lisa. Beautiful singing. Let's give Claude up. That's magic. Well deserved. So let's all stand up for the prayer for protection. And together say, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And give God his water. Please, thank you.